On our 6th wedding anniversary, my husband Victor, who had prepared a surprise for me, accidentally fell into the sea and vanished without a trace. When the tragic news came, I felt not a shred of grief. Shortly after Victor's funeral, I closed our joint accounts and contacted a lawyer to divide the assets that rightfully belonged to me. Because I knew Victor's death was a sham. His mistress was pregnant, and for the child he had always dreamed of, Victor concocted this scheme to deceive me. Later, Victor, holding his illegitimate child, went to great lengths to find me. Yet he took several steps back in shock upon seeing my bulging belly when I opened the door. You can bear children? Of course I can bear children, it's Victor who couldn't. After 6 years of marriage with Victor, I still hadn't gotten pregnant. I underwent countless tests and took numerous medications, yet conception remained elusive. Because of my infertility, my mother-in-law Anna frequently made snide remarks, never giving me a kind look, even publicly calling me a barren hen. Whenever Anna mistreated me, my husband Victor firmly stood by my side in support. He never resented me for being unable to bear children, instead, he treated me with even greater kindness. I had always believed our love was stronger than gold, convinced I'd found the man to entrust my life to. On our 6th anniversary, Victor prepared a truly memorable party for me. He booked a luxury cruise ship and invited prominent figures from all walks of life in Nan City to host a grand anniversary dinner for me at sea. But who could predict the sudden turn of events? While inspecting the cruise ship, Victor accidentally fell overboard and was lost without a trace. When the tragic news reached me, I fainted on the spot. Unable to accept Victor's departure, I blamed myself to the extreme, attributing his death entirely to my own actions. I bore all the blame and developed severe psychological issues, my physical health deteriorating day by day. Mother-in-law Anna never liked me to begin with, and after Victor's death, she constantly subjected me to verbal abuse and harsh treatment, making my life a living hell. Finally, on the anniversary of Victor's passing, after Anna once again pointed at my nose and screamed that I was the murderer who killed Victor, I chose to end my own life. I leaped from the high-rise balcony, my body shattered beyond recognition upon impact. Just a few days after my death, Victor, who had supposedly been dead for a year, returned. He wasn't alone. With him appeared my half-sister Nora, who was holding a 3-month-old baby in her arms. It turns out Victor had been secretly involved with Nora, the daughter of my stepmother Selena, who was the other woman in my parents' marriage. Nora got pregnant, and Victor desperately wanted the child. That's why he staged this fake death scheme to deceive me. My suicide paved the way for their happy family of 3. Victor and Nora shed crocodile tears holding their baby at my grave, then soon held a high-profile wedding ceremony. His marriage to Nora turned my suicide into an absolute joke. Perhaps heaven had eyes, I was reborn. It was the day of our 6th wedding anniversary with Victor, the same day he had his accident. In this life, I'm going to play along with Victor's little death game and make sure he enjoys it thoroughly. Time flew by, and soon it was 4 p.m. As I sat on the sofa, I glanced at my watch. Right on cue, the heart-wrenching wails of my mother-in-law Anna erupted outside. My son. You were still so young. How could you be so cruel as to leave me behind? How am I supposed to go on without you? The long-awaited drama had finally begun. A few minutes later, Anna entered in tears, her face streaked with snot and tears, looking utterly disheveled as she was supported by Nora's mother, Selena, my mistress-turned-stepmother. Anna, please restrain your grief. Don't cry yourself into sickness. While comforting Anna with these words, Selena glanced at me sitting on the sofa, her eyes flashing with a cold glint of ill intent. Cecilia. Victor had an accident. He fell into the sea while preparing a surprise for you. They've been searching for hours but found nothing. In my past life, when I heard that Victor had an accident, I felt dizzy and couldn't even stand steadily. In this life, knowing the truth, I sternly scolded Selena, "What nonsense are you talking? You shameless mistress dare to curse my husband? Are you jealous that I'm living a good life? It's true. Victor really had an accident. I'm not lying to you. Actually, it's because of you that Victor got into trouble." Before Selena could finish her words, Anna burst into tears and rushed toward me. "You jinx. You good-for-nothing jinx. Married to my son for 6 years and couldn't even bear a child. I tolerated that. But you actually killed my son with your damn surprises. Give me back my son's life." In my previous life, I was drowning in grief over Victor's death, believing he had truly died while preparing a surprise for me. I took all the blame upon myself, letting Anna slap me, pull my hair, and vent her anger through kicks and punches without uttering a single complaint. But this time around, things won't be so easy for her. Anna lunged at me, ready to strike, but I swiftly caught her wrist. Unable to land a hit, she spewed nothing but vile curses from her mouth. And Selena, who had originally wanted to see me get beaten, immediately rushed over when she saw me grabbing Anna's hand and preventing her from hitting me. "Let's talk this out properly, Anna." While saying words of comfort, she reached out to grab me. "Cecilia, let go of your mother-in-law right now. Can't you see how angry she is?" As Selena's hand reached out to grab me, I quickly pulled out the sharp hairpin from my bun and started jabbing wildly at both Selena and Anna. While stabbing at them, I screamed, "You lied to me. You actually cursed my husband. I don't want to live anymore. Ah. I can't go on. Let's all die together." The hatred from 2 lifetimes made me strike fast and ruthless, raining down stabs upon Selena and Anna's heads and faces. Selena suffered wounds on her face and arms, with countless hairpin punctures to her chest, howling in agony like a tormented ghost. Anna fared no better, as I wielded the hairpins with such ferocity they fell upon the two like a storm. Never in their wildest dreams did they expect me to go berserk like this. Clutching their heads, they scurried away like rats, fleeing through the door, all their earlier accusatory bravado completely vanished. After my merciless performance that recognized no kinship, both Anna and Selena were rushed to the hospital. Their faces and hands were riddled with bloody holes from the hairpins, screaming in pain the entire way. Their embarrassing situation was filmed and posted online. After netizens dug up the truth about Victor's accident, they all said I was deeply in love with Victor and had gone mad from the shock of his death. Madness turned out to be the perfect disguise. For the following days, I wielded sharp objects. Whenever someone approached me, I'd act insane to deal with them, making everyone too afraid to provoke me. My actions were too extreme, they were all terrified. Victor, who had changed his identity and was preparing to take Nora abroad, abandoned his plans. They sat down with Anna and Selena to discuss countermeasures. The group thought they had concealed everything perfectly and that no one would ever uncover their whereabouts. I never expected that I had already spent a fortune hiring a private detective to monitor Anna, Selena, and Nora's every move. The content of their secret meetings and discussions was completely recorded by the private detective and handed over to me. The moment they met, they started listing all my faults, especially the attacked Selena and Anna, one with a face full of bloody holes, the other waving her bandaged arm at Victor to complain. That day we originally planned to put Cecilia in her place and force her to submit, but that little bitch Cecilia seemed like a completely different person, so crazy it was terrifying. Thankfully we ran fast that day, otherwise the consequences would have been unthinkable. Victor thought I had truly been traumatized by his death. After a moment of contemplation, he instructed Anna. "Mom, she loved me too much, it's understandable that she couldn't accept my death and lost her mind. Since that's the case, just leave her alone from now on. Having suffered at my hands, how could Anna give up so easily? Let her off just like that? Look what that bitch did to me. I could kill her. I even planned to make her kneel at your funeral for a whole day. She's gone completely mad, do you really think she'd listen to you? To avoid any trouble, let's keep the funeral simple. After all, I'm not actually dead. If Cecilia causes a scene and someone uncovers the truth about my fake death, we'll lose more than we gain." Afraid that I might go crazy and do something terrible, they all agreed not to inform me about Victor's so-called funeral. In my past life, I knelt before Victor's fake grave, crying so hard I lost my voice and fainted multiple times. This time, they didn't dare to torment me. Anna burned a few of his clothes and placed them in a box as a symbolic grave for Victor. The day after Victor's burial, I took the household register to cancel his residency, then immediately launched a legal battle against Anna to contest the inheritance. In my previous life, I was convinced that I had caused Victor's death, drowning in sorrow every day. How could I have had the energy to worry about property? I renounced all of Victor's assets, handing everything over to Anna, keeping only our marital home as a memento. But in this life, such kindness won't be repeated. As Victor's legal wife with no children, I'm entitled not just to half of our marital assets but also to half of Victor's inheritance. This time, I'll claim every bit of what rightfully belongs to me. As for Anna's share, let's see if she's fortunate enough to get it. Victor's account cancellation procedures were processed extremely quickly. The death certificate was obtained by Anna through connections. I didn't even need to lift a finger. Simply taking the death certificate Anna had prepared, I completed the account cancellation in just a few minutes. I entrusted all remaining inheritance matters to my lawyer. As a legally deceased person, Victor's estate was to be divided equally, half to me and half to Anna. The lawyer I hired was ranked number 1 in the industry. After accepting my retainer, he began handling the asset division with practiced ease. Thanks to Victor's carefully crafted, devoted husband persona over the years, he gifted me countless priceless pieces of jewelry during our 6-year marriage, along with luxury homes, cars, a yacht, and a private jet. All these assets were registered solely in my name, becoming my personal property with no connection whatsoever to Victor. After meticulous calculations by lawyers, we discovered that Victor's entire estate ultimately only consisted of company shares eligible for division. Anna was furious when she learned I'd arranged for lawyers to settle the estate. Cursing angrily, she stormed back to the villa Victor and I shared, determined to confront me. I just held a 3-foot-long sharp knife, watching her smile brightly, which made Anna abandon her idea of making a scene. Compared to before, I seemed like a completely different person, prone to shouting about killing and acting crazy. Victor and the others believed I had suffered severe trauma from loving him too much. Faced with such erratic behavior, they found it hard to reason with me. Anna, Victor, and the others hurriedly gathered again to discuss. Victor, who was supposedly dead, naturally didn't want to ruin everything by showing up to fight me over the inheritance. So after deliberation, they unanimously decided to send my unfaithful, mistress-keeping father, Richard, to talk sense into me. My father Richard came to see me with his mistress Selina, who had bruises on her face, and their illegitimate daughter Nora. I watched coldly as Richard, Selina, and Nora entered. Thinking back, I hadn't seen Nora since Victor's death in my previous life. This time around, Nora is still safely in the country, all thanks to my earlier unconventional tactics. My different actions from my past life prevented Victor from taking Nora abroad to get married and start a family in peace. Compared to children, what they value more now is naturally the property. After all, it's not just a small sum, it's assets worth tens of billions. Nora shamelessly seduced Victor to bear his child precisely because she coveted his billionaire fortune. She and her homewrecker mother Selina both play the same shrewd game. I calmly invited Richard and the other two to sit down, even personally serving them boiling 100-degree water as hospitality. Richard and Selina, along with Nora, certainly weren't here for a drink of water. Richard took the lead, hypocritically expressing a few words of concern for me before bringing up the matter of the company. Cecilia, you don't understand anything about the company. It's best to maintain the status quo. Your mother-in-law has had it tough, and you're not short of money now. There's no need to make the relationship this strained. I curled the corner of my mouth and fixed my gaze on Nora. By this time, the baby in Nora's belly should have been over 3 months along, right? To secure her position, she really went to great lengths. She actually managed to produce a child. If Victor could have kids, our children would be running all over the place by now. So whose seed is really in Nora's belly? Seeing me stare at her, Nora immediately forced a smile. Sis, Dad only has your best interests at heart. The company is thriving now. A scandal between you and your mother-in-law fighting over inheritance would hurt the company's stock price. We're all family, we only want what's best for you. Please listen to us. I nodded, you're absolutely right. The company is Victor's life's work. It's the fruit of his labor. We can't let any negative news affect it. Hearing my response, expressions of joy flashed across Richard's, Nora's, and Selena's faces. The next second, I violently overturned the table in front of me. The scalding water on the table splashed all over Richard's family of 3. They hissed in pain from the burns. I suddenly leaped up and lunged at Nora, delivering a heavy slap across her face. You bitch. Who gave you the right to call me sister? How dare you, the daughter of a mistress, presume to meddle in my affairs? With half of Nora's face swollen, I grabbed her hair and started beating her mercilessly. Who gave you the nerve to come laugh at me for being a widow? You think you can watch me suffer? Dream on. I'd rather die than let you see me humiliated. After slapping Nora several times, I grabbed the baseball bat beside me and swung at Selena and Richard. You vile creatures, every single one of you is after the assets in my hands. Let me make this clear, Victor's company will forever belong to him alone. No one will ever take it away. From this moment on, I'll hold that company in an iron grip. Anyone who dares covet it will answer to me with their life. After a thorough beating, Richard fled in disgrace with his mistress Nora. The thrashing sent Nora straight to the hospital, though the baby in her womb remained unharmed. After all, my intention was merely to teach her a lesson. As for the child in her belly, of course it should remain perfectly healthy. Wouldn't it be most interesting if it were born, just like in my past life? The real fun only begins after the baby arrives, doesn't it? Selena and Nora gained nothing from this encounter. Once confirming Nora's baby was safe, the group huddled together to strategize, their anxiety now palpable. They feared I might truly seize Victor's shares and harm the company's interests. In the surveillance footage my private investigator provided, Victor sat frowning, chain-smoking incessantly. Nora coughed violently from the smoke, prompting him to stub out the cigarette. If it really comes to that, I'll have to show myself. You can't appear. If you do, all our previous plans will be ruined. Selena and Nora both protested in unison. Given how crazy Cecilia has become, if she finds out Nora is carrying your child, she'll go berserk, won't she? This could blow up into a huge mess that'll hurt everyone. We need to handle this discreetly. Selena and Nora's idea of handling it discreetly was to kill me off, just like in my past life, where they drove me to suicide. Their private, venomous scheming was all recorded by the private investigator. Nora said venomously to Selena, Mom, Cecilia is deeply in love with Victor. She's acting so crazy right now, I suspect it won't be long before she loses control and attempts suicide. We just need to provoke her and wait patiently. After all, Cecilia still holds the majority of the marital assets. If she dies, we'll become the rightful heirs and can divide her property. What if she doesn't kill herself? Selena retorted. Cecilia said confidently, she'll kill herself. Don't worry. If she's still alive by the time I give birth, we'll find a way to finish her off. After all, her madness is already known to everyone. Having someone push her to commit suicide would seem perfectly logical, no one would suspect a thing. How utterly venomous these two are. Not only are they eyeing Victor's wealth, but also the assets in my possession. This must be why Anna kept provoking and picking fights with me in my past life. They still think I'm the same naive Cecilia from before, blindly devoted to Victor, believing they can eliminate me as easily as turning their hand. That suits me just fine. Under Selena and Cecilia's dissuasion, Victor gave up on the idea of returning. Meanwhile, I posted Victor's photos every day on forums and other social media platforms. Along with the caption, I refuse to believe my husband is gone. He'll definitely come back. I'll protect the company for him, no one can lay a finger on it. No one. My posts and social media updates made Victor increasingly convinced that I loved him to death. Since I loved him so much, I would surely tolerate his infidelity. When he comes back from the dead, I will welcome him with open arms just like before. Victor was confident. He didn't interfere with the inheritance division anymore, and I quickly received the half of the shares that belonged to Victor. On the day I got the shares, I called Victor's arch-rival Alexander. "Alexander, can we meet?" I thought Alexander would refuse me, but to my surprise, he actually agreed to my meeting request. I arranged to meet Alexander at the private club owned by his family. I arrived at the private room of the club with a bare face half an hour early, expecting Alexander to be late. But when I pushed open the door, I found Alexander already seated inside, waiting for me. Alexander leaned back on the sofa, idly playing with a string of prayer beads that looked somewhat familiar. Seeing Alexander, who was known for his short temper and never spared anyone's feelings, actually nod at me and signal for me to take a seat. Since Victor and Alexander were sworn enemies, Alexander and I had never had any interaction before. In fact, I had even spoken disrespectfully about Alexander because of Victor. I wasn't sure if Alexander would agree to cooperate with me. I was just trying my luck. If it failed, it wouldn't be a big deal anyway. No nonsense, I went straight to the point. I came to you today to discuss a business deal. I know, you want to sell me the company shares you hold, right? Alexander's words startled me. Was he a mind reader? How did he know my plan? I instinctively asked in return, how did you know? I know a lot of things. Alexander chuckled lightly. Including Victor and Nora having a child together, including his faked death, and including you hiring a private investigator to look into them. After hearing Alexander finish speaking, I almost jumped up. You. Don't worry, I'm not here to expose you. I can work with you, but I have one condition. What's your request? Alexander's gaze lingered on my face before he finally uttered 6 words. I want to marry you. What? I had just sat down but immediately sprang back up. Are you out of your mind? I'm perfectly sane. As long as you marry me, I'll help you with anything you want. With so many young and beautiful women out there, why would you choose a divorced woman like me? Alexander grabbed my hand tightly. In my heart, you're an angel. The angel who pulled me out of the mire. His gaze held an intensity one couldn't comprehend, brimming with emotions I didn't understand. Though no stranger to romance, I recognized the affection shining in Alexander's eyes. He was the city's most eligible bachelor, handsome, wealthy, and talented enough to have women lining up from the southern to northern districts just for a chance with him. And with all the rumors circulating about Alexander's notorious indifference toward women, how could someone like him possibly be interested in me, a discarded woman abandoned by Victor? He must be joking. Or maybe he's trying to play me? After all, I had previously embarrassed him because of Victor. Rumors say Alexander holds grudges, and those who offend him never end well. Perhaps sensing my intense inner turmoil, Alexander sighed and handed me the prayer beads he'd been toying with. Look at this. I took the beads and was startled upon seeing the inscription. These are my lost prayer beads. How did they end up with you? You've forgotten? You don't remember me at all? A wounded expression flashed in Alexander's eyes. I was truly at a loss. He slowly reminded me, 20 years ago in Nan City during winter, did you rescue a helpless mother and child on the street? You gave them a bank card and told the little boy who had just lost his father to be strong. 20 years ago in Nan City, my only blood relative, my birth mother, couldn't accept discovering Richard's affair with Selena and their illegitimate daughter Nora, so she chose to end her life by cutting her wrists. That year's winter solstice was bitterly cold, with winds that cut to the bone. Having lost my mother, I wandered aimlessly through the streets. Then I saw a helpless mother and child weeping over a man who had just breathed his last. It turned out this pitiful pair had just lost the family's breadwinner. The lame woman and the young child cried their hearts out for the life ahead after losing their man. Standing on the street watching them weep, I too was streaming with tears. They were crying for their future livelihood, while I cried for having no mother. That year, though only 8 years old, I understood clearly that no amount of money would help a motherless child like me. I would be targeted by my father's mistress and her daughter, my life would become as worthless as grass. Perhaps I'll end up like my mother, killed by that mistress and her daughter, meeting a tragic end. So I handed the bank card in my hand to that grief-stricken woman. I told her there was money in the account, enough to raise her son. I wanted that mother and child to live well. Memories flooded back as I stared at Alexander in disbelief. I couldn't fathom how this extraordinarily handsome man with overwhelming presence could be the same tear-streaked, filthy little boy from 20 years ago, his eyes filled with confusion and pain on the streets. Fate is truly unpredictable. The little boy I helped 20 years ago has now grown into a powerful figure, and he has extended a helping hand to me. It suddenly dawned on me why I dared to come and negotiate with Alexander. Because in my past life, I had seen kindness in Alexander's eyes when he looked at me. Back then, I was heartbroken and drowning in pain because of Victor, when a renowned psychiatrist unexpectedly came to treat me. The psychiatrist once mentioned being commissioned by a certain gentleman. Could that gentleman have been Alexander? I recall the severe car accident I had before my suicide attempt, when Alexander carried my bloodied body to the hospital. I also remember how several business confrontations between Victor and Alexander always ended with Alexander conceding. Alexander had never failed in his previous endeavors. Did he yield because of me? My mind was flooded with long-overlooked memories as Alexander gazed at me with deep affection from across the room. That day I found the Buddhist prayer beads you dropped and learned your identity. I vowed to repay you. But I was too late, you'd already married Victor. Alexander placed the Buddhist beads around my wrist. Cecilia, I know what you're planning to do next, and I'll help you. Marrying me is the fastest and best solution. Alexander explained that by marrying me, he could legitimately take over all the shares in my possession through our marital relationship without Victor noticing anything. He even offered to transfer equivalent shares from his own company to me if I had any concerns. What did I have to worry about? The money I already possessed was more than enough to last me several lifetimes. What I urgently desired now was for Victor and his despicable mother Anna to lose everything they had. Let Nora and Selena, that home-wrecking mother-daughter pair, learn the consequences of their failed scheming, a fate worse than death. Alexander and I went to get our marriage license the very next day. Though it was just a marriage of convenience, Alexander had prepared everything properly. He gave me a 20-carat diamond solitaire as a wedding ring. He also arranged dinner at the most coveted private dining restaurant. Flowers, violinists, all my favorite dishes, nothing was missing. I ate until my stomach was round and full. Just as I was about to leave after the satisfying meal, Alexander said he had prepared a surprise for me. Following his arranged guide, I arrived at the door of a private dining room in the restaurant. In the private room, Victor in disguise was having a farewell meal with Anna and Nora. Victor and Nora were flying abroad tomorrow, and throughout the dinner, Anna kept reminding them of various precautions. Apart from taking good care of themselves, they absolutely must take good care of Nora's unborn child, her precious grandson. Just as she was speaking with heartfelt sincerity, commotion erupted outside. You can't go in. We have rules here. No outsiders are allowed to disturb our dining guests. I raised my voice. I'm not some random outsider. The person dining inside is my mother-in-law. Isn't it perfectly reasonable for me to see my own mother-in-law? Sorry, ma'am. We need to check with the guests inside before letting you enter. Hearing my voice, the people inside were utterly stunned. Victor jumped up in panic. Why is Cecilia here? How did she find this place? Could she possibly know about my fake death? How is this possible? We'd been preparing for so long, Cecilia never had a clue. How could she know the truth at this moment? Maybe she just happened to pass by? Selena said. Victor also didn't believe I would discover the truth. No matter what, I can't let Cecilia see me. I'll just have the waiter stop her and not let her in, Anna said immediately. As soon as the words were spoken, I started shouting outside, Mom! Mom! Why won't you see me? Even though Victor is dead, I'm still your only daughter-in-law. You'd rather have dinner with that homewrecker Selena and her daughter than see me? What kind of reasoning is this? Were you two inside plotting how to deal with me? That bitch Selena seduced my dad and got my mom killed. Now is she teaming up with you to kill me and steal my inheritance? I'm warning you, if you refuse to see me, I'll keep waiting right here. I'll call the press. Explain yourself. Why are you ignoring your daughter-in-law while cozying up to homewrecker Selena? I was screaming so loudly that restaurant patrons came out to see the commotion. Victor's death was still hot news, and there I was, making a scene like a madwoman, dignity completely abandoned. The crowd buzzed with gossip, theories flying in every direction. It's so pitiful, Cecilia used to be such a gentle person, but after her husband died, she turned into this state. Indeed, she was deeply traumatized. After all, she and Victor were known as the model couple in their social circle. Without her husband, unloved by her mother-in-law, and with that stepmother homewrecker taking over, she must be constantly anxious and afraid of being hurt. Listening to the discussions outside, Selena and the others inside turned pale with anger. My causing such a scene was certainly not a solution, they had to figure out a way to handle it. It seems she won't give up until she gets in today. Victor, leave through the window and hide for now. Selena immediately made the decision for Victor to escape through the window. Their private dining room was on the first floor with low windows, making this indeed the best option at present. Nora stood up and pushed open the window. Victor climbed onto a chair, stepped onto the windowsill, and jumped down. The moment his feet touched the ground, an agonizing scream tore through the air, ah! Victor never could have dreamed that beneath the private restaurant's window lay animal traps covered in broken glass and sharp objects. As he leaped forward, both his feet were caught in the animal traps. The pain was nothing to scoff at, he immediately let out a blood-curdling scream. To make matters worse, the shards of glass and sharp nails beneath his feet pierced his skin, leaving them drenched in blood. The agony was unbearable. Hearing Victor scream, Anna and Nora both rushed to the window and were shocked by the gruesome sight. Anna's heart ached beyond measure. Call an ambulance. Call an ambulance right now. We can't call an ambulance. This will make the whole matter public. We can't let all our efforts go to waste. Selena immediately intervened. What should we do then? Can't you see how much pain Victor is in? What if someone dies? I'll have my bodyguards take Victor out first, Selena said, immediately calling for her security team. Selena's bodyguards arrived quickly and promptly took Victor to the hospital. After witnessing her son being carried away by the bodyguards, Anna angrily slammed open the private room door. What are you doing? Cecilia, what exactly do you want? Can't I even have a meal in peace? Do you want to make life impossible for me? Of course you can eat, but why must you dine with that shameless homewrecker Selena and her illegitimate daughter Nora? Weren't you the one who despised mistresses and illegitimate children the most? Why are you befriending that shameless homewrecker Selena? Have you been bewitched by this mistress and her daughter? Have they convinced you to turn against me? Anna sharply tried to cut me off. What nonsense are you spouting? Who's a homewrecker? Cecilia, you're spouting insane nonsense. It seems you need to see a psychiatrist. I'm not crazy. Let me tell you, that homewrecker Selena is no good. Back then she seduced my father and drove my mother to her death. Now she's cozying up to you, she must be trying to use you against me. Tell me, what did she say to you? Selena's scandalous affair with Richard was common knowledge in South City back then. After the whole family moved to City A, fewer people knew about that past. She'd always thought she'd successfully reinvented herself. When I publicly exposed her history like this, especially with diners filming the scene, Selena turned green with rage. Cecilia, how dare you? Spreading vicious lies to ruin my reputation like this, just wait till I teach you a lesson today. I was waiting for her to teach me a lesson. Selena pounced on me furiously to hit me, and I met her with a resounding slap. Seeing Selena and me fighting, Alexander's men immediately stepped in to intervene. Of course, they only restrained Selena, leaving her defenseless to take the beating. Nora couldn't just sit back and watch. Despite being pregnant, she rushed in to help, only to be grabbed by the hair and shoved hard against a table, not harming her belly, but making her head hit the table. Then, she simply passed out. Seeing Nora unconscious, both Selena and Anna panicked, fearing for the baby in Nora's womb, screaming hysterically to get her medical help. Just like that, Victor and Nora were sent to the hospital one after another. Victor was discreetly transported by bodyguards without alerting anyone. But Nora's case was different. Her ambulance blared through the streets with reckless urgency. Within 2 minutes of Nora being wheeled into the emergency room, news of her 3-month pregnancy had already spread like wildfire. The scandal of an unmarried heiress carrying a child successfully ignited everyone's curiosity. Especially after learning that this wealthy heiress's mother was once a renowned hostess in a southern city bar, and how she hooked up with Richard, got pregnant, and drove his original wife to suicide. What a spectacular backstory. The internet exploded. Videos and photos of Selena dancing provocatively in nightclubs, cozying up to countless men, flooded social media. Even obscure, short clips started circulating everywhere, all featuring Selena without exception, with men, naturally, changing every day. It was hard to tell what was real, but one thing was certain: as the star attraction of those nightclubs, Selena was no innocent girl. Like mother, like daughter. With Selena setting such an example as a homewrecker, her daughter Nora was bound to master the craft. Everyone began speculating about which married man had fathered the child in Nora's belly. Soon, all the respectable ladies of City A were checking whether their husbands had ever crossed paths with Nora, each fearing for her own marriage. The fear that Nora's unborn child might belong to their husbands kept the scandal trending. Nora and Selena's reputations were utterly ruined. Richard was so furious that he called and screamed at me. I simply tossed my phone aside and let him vent. He eventually wore himself out with his own shouting and hung up. Love can't withstand tests. Richard, that cheating scumbag, was initially drawn to Selena's youth and beauty, along with her so-called helpless circumstances. He had always believed Selena was a pure white lotus rising untainted from the mud. But after seeing Selena's viral videos everywhere, Richard began to question Nora's true identity. He arranged for someone to conduct a paternity test. Meanwhile, Victor was hospitalized with both legs crushed by animal traps. After undergoing a lengthy surgery for his severe injuries, he finally regained consciousness. The moment he opened his eyes and picked up his phone, he saw the negative news about Nora and Selena. Victor was so furious he nearly spat blood. Why had this happened? Before his involvement with Nora, there hadn't been a single negative rumor about Selena or Nora. Cecilia had never spoken ill of them either, so Victor had always believed Selena and Richard were properly married. Who would have guessed it was actually a case of the mistress replacing the wife? No wonder Cecilia and Nora had always been on such cold terms, and why she and Richard barely interacted. The reason was here all along. Victor was starting to regret it, but things had already come to this. He needed a child. Cecilia hadn't given him a child in 6 years, and now he'd finally gotten Nora pregnant. This baby was hard-won, he couldn't just give it up. The only way forward now was to let the child be born first. After that, he'd cut ties with Nora for good, take the baby back, and hand it over to Cecilia to raise, claiming they'd adopted it from an orphanage. He had his countermeasures ready, while Nora, whose reputation was in tatters, found her phone flooded with calls and her social media inundated with countless hateful private messages. Some even tracked down her whereabouts, following her to throw feces and rotten eggs. Unable to stay in the country any longer, Nora hastily discussed with Victor, and the two chartered a private jet to flee abroad and escape the backlash. The moment they left, the company's stock transfer began to proceed in an orderly manner. Victor dared to fake his death and leave because he had entrusted the company to his most trusted person, Stephen, to take the helm. He wasn't afraid of Stephen betraying him. After all, Stephen had fatal leverage in his hands that Victor controlled. Only, Victor miscalculated one thing: if he could know Stephen's secrets, then so could others. When I, accompanied by Alexander, threw the evidence of Stephen's hired murder and drug trafficking on his desk, he immediately defected. Besides Stephen, the company had other key loyalists like Victor. Alexander and I took them down one by one, and soon they all surrendered. I knew all of this was thanks to Alexander, one of the most powerful figures in City A at the moment. Victor's loyalists surrendered so quickly solely out of fear of Alexander, not because of me. The transfer of company shares went unusually smoothly, completed in less than a month. All the shares have been scooped up by Alexander, leaving only those in Anna's hands. Alexander wanted to resort to extreme measures, but I refused. I told Alexander that I was already quite satisfied with how things stood. Anna's shares must be kept intact. After all, I'm still waiting to witness a grand spectacle. This show will only truly shine when Victor and Nora's child is born. Time passes so slowly. By my count, there are still 6 months left until Nora and Victor's child is due. Waiting always makes one restless, especially when faced with uncertainties. To keep my anxiety at bay, I started finding things to occupy myself. Things like shopping, spa treatments, or having afternoon tea with friends. I even began frequenting nightclubs, drinking and dancing. Many of these were experiences I'd never had in my previous life. Every time I went clubbing for drinks and dancing, I'd inevitably run into Alexander. There he'd stand, shirt tucked neatly into his trousers, hands casually slipped into pockets, watching me from that deliberate distance. His handsome features attracted the attention of many women, yet not one dared to approach him for contact information. Alexander was too aloof, his entire demeanor warning others to keep their distance. Only when I was drunk, when I was being unreasonable, would he reveal a helpless smile. He would send my drunk self home, stepping in to deal with the many sleazy men at the nightclub for me. Leaning against the passenger seat of his luxury car, I watched Alexander focus on driving. Something stirred in my heart, an itchy feeling. I realized Alexander was truly, incredibly handsome. Especially when he smiles, it's extraordinarily handsome. I admit I was utterly captivated by his beauty. So when Alexander invited me to his home for dinner, I didn't refuse. I thought it would just be Alexander, but unexpectedly, his mother was there too. 20 years had passed, and the helpless woman's face was now etched with wrinkles. Seeing me, she smiled and wheeled herself over, grabbing my hand. "Thank you. Cecilia, thank you for saving us, both me and my son back then." Dinner was personally prepared by Alexander, a simple meal of 4 dishes and a soup, all of which happened to be my favorites. I thought I would feel awkward, but surprisingly, I found myself completely at ease. Alexander's mother was incredibly gentle. The kindness she showed me melted away all my defenses. It was already 10 p.m. when I left Alexander's villa, and he drove me back to my place. He remained the perfect gentleman, reaching over to fasten my seatbelt for me. Perhaps because of the glass of red wine I'd had that evening, I felt slightly tipsy. As Alexander leaned in, my hand moved uncontrollably to play with his hair. His hair was thick and lush, jet black and glossy, with a texture just as wonderful as I'd imagined. As if possessed, I blurted out, "What shampoo do you use?" Alexander didn't answer me, but suddenly changed direction as he lifted himself, sealing my lips with his own. What followed seemed perfectly natural. I didn't dislike Alexander, so I accepted his further exploration of me. We were remarkably compatible. He showed me what true rapture felt like. I never knew intimacy between a man and woman could be so profoundly enjoyable. After 6 years of marriage to Victor, I'd never experienced anything so deeply moving. I fell in love with exercising with Alexander. The consequence was that one morning I suddenly felt nauseous. I vomited in the bathroom for quite a while. My stomach still felt acidic and uncomfortable, and everything looked unappetizing. Thinking I had stomach problems, I went to the hospital for a checkup. The results showed my stomach was completely normal. The examining doctor reminded me, "Could you be pregnant?" After this reminder, I went to the gynecology department and went through the full battery of blood and urine tests. The obstetrician told me, "Congratulations, you're pregnant. For weeks along, the baby is perfectly healthy. Would you like to set up a prenatal file?" After 6 years of infertility, I nodded dizzily. Of course I wanted to set up the file. After all, this was my child, right? As I was filling out the prenatal forms, hurried footsteps echoed from outside. I turned around and saw Alexander rushing in without any trace of composure. "Darling, we're having a baby?" I nodded, feeling something was off. Why did he call me his wife? We had already registered our marriage, so calling me his wife seemed correct. The child was Alexander's, so it was our child. That also made sense. Then why did it still feel wrong? It wasn't until Alexander carried me into his Maybach and took me to his luxurious villa that it finally clicked. Didn't Alexander and I have a marriage of convenience? How did we end up having a child together? How are we supposed to get a divorce now? Divorce doesn't seem like a bad deal for me, after all. Alexander did say half his fortune would be mine when we got married. But a child shouldn't grow up without a father. Children from single-parent families probably won't be very happy, right? I'll see how Alexander behaves first. If his attitude is good and he doesn't mess around, I might still accept having him as the father of the child I'm carrying. If all else fails, keeping the child but cutting out the father is also a viable option. The days passed one by one, and the pregnancy was utterly miserable. I couldn't keep anything down. Whatever I ate, I vomited, and I lost so much weight that I became a shadow of myself. Alexander tried every possible way to prepare meals for me. It became routine for him to drive from the south to the north of the city in the dead of night just to buy the snacks I craved. I'd drool at the thought of the food, but the moment he brought it back, I'd take one look, shake my head, and push it away. Yet he never showed the slightest irritation, always smiling cheerfully. Amid this bittersweet struggle, my little one had already grown to over 3 months in my belly, and my morning sickness eased considerably. Alexander always made time to accompany me for my prenatal checkups and unfailingly prepared nutritious meals for me every day. When the baby in my womb was 5 months old, Victor and Nora, who were hiding abroad, sent good news. Nora had given birth to a healthy baby boy weighing 8 pounds. This was indeed good news, and the story was finally coming to an end. I couldn't wait to see the delightful expression on Victor's hateful face, so I asked Alexander to help me with one thing. The advantage of marrying a powerful and influential husband is that anything you ask him to do gets executed swiftly. Yet within just one day, Victor was confirmed alive. Victor appeared abroad. Victor and Nora were spotted together at a maternity hospital overseas, delivering their child. Photos and videos of the couple beaming while holding their newborn spread like wildfire across the internet. After months of public speculation, the mystery of who fathered Nora's baby was finally solved for all to see. No one expected it would be Victor. Isn't this the classic case of a scumbag man and a shameless woman? Selena shamelessly seduced Richard back then, which led to my mother's death. Now her illegitimate daughter has followed her example by seducing my husband and even bore his illegitimate child. The public outrage was predictably intense. Wave after wave of trending hashtags exploded across the internet. The more Victor's carefully crafted loving husband persona had been admired, the harder the backlash hit. Both he and Nora became objects of universal scorn. The all-powerful netizens began digging into Victor and Nora, uncovering every detail of their affair. The scandal remained trending endlessly, with Anna and Selena also getting dragged into it. At first, they didn't dare leave home, but they couldn't stay indoors forever. Every time they went out, their car tires would be slashed, windows smashed, and dead rats, snakes, and various reptiles would be thrown into their vehicles. Some people even breached multiple security layers to vandalize her villa, splashing paint, throwing feces, and delivering funeral wreaths. News about Nora began to circulate endlessly. An insider leaked videos and photos of Nora previously cozying up to wealthy young heirs from prestigious families. Nora had always wanted to marry into a rich and powerful family. However, because Richard's company was struggling, and she was too proud to settle for anything less than her high standards, she remained single all these years. Nora, of course, couldn't stand being left out. Seeing that I had married someone like Victor, she also wanted to find a man who could stand shoulder to shoulder with mine. So she kept her eyes fixed on the most eligible young heirs from the prominent families in City A. She went all out to seduce several wealthy young heirs, some of whom completely ignored her. Others were playboys themselves. Why pass up free entertainment that came knocking at their door? They even filmed those kinds of videos for amusement. Then, the explosive footage abruptly surfaced online. The man's face was blurred, leaving nothing visible, but Nora was shown from head to toe. One can imagine Victor's reaction upon seeing such a video. He already looked down on Nora because of her status as the daughter of a mistress, and now his disdain grew even stronger. Victor couldn't wait until the baby's full-month celebration to return. He rushed back from abroad with the infant and a nanny in tow. He left without informing Nora, who upon hearing of Victor's departure, desperately chased after him. The day Nora returned to the country, media swarmed the airport to greet her, treating her like a top-tier celebrity. Not only did she face countless sharp and malicious questions, but she was also doused with excrement by people waiting outside the airport. For a moment, videos and photos of Nora standing disheveled at the airport entrance sparked another wave of trending searches. I enjoyed a blissful sleep at home and woke up to find Alexander had prepared a feast that was as visually appealing as it was delicious. I devoured the meal with gusto, my lips glistening with grease. That's precisely when the phone abruptly rang. Ignoring it, I kept eating. After several missed calls, a message finally came through. "Cecilia, it's me, Victor. I know you've already learned the truth and must be furious. Cecilia, I'm sorry. I betrayed your trust, but I had no choice. Let's meet and talk things through, okay?" Of course, Victor didn't come to see me first upon his return, he went straight to the company. But when he arrived at the company, he realized things weren't as he expected. The entire staff, from top to bottom, had been replaced. All his trusted confidants had vanished, and to his shock, security guards actually stopped him from entering the premises. The security guard looked at Victor sideways. "Our boss said, Victor and dogs are not allowed in." Victor was disgracefully thrown out. He immediately called his trusted aides, but without exception, all the calls failed to connect. At this point, Victor felt an inexplicable panic creeping over him. Yet, he still clung to a sliver of hope. That hope was me, the majority shareholder of the company. I had loved him so deeply before, surely, with just a little trick, he could win me back. So Victor sent me a message, urgently needing to meet and explain. After eating my fill, I replied to Victor with an address, our current home with Alexander. If Victor hadn't lost his head, seeing this address should have sparked some connections. Unfortunately, I overestimated him, he's now completely panicked. Without even verifying further, he rushed over carrying Nora's child. The doorbell rang just as Alexander was massaging my legs. My legs were a bit swollen during pregnancy, and the doctor said I needed regular massages. So Alexander specifically went to learn massage techniques and became my personal professional masseur. I heard the doorbell ring and Alexander was about to answer it, but I stopped him. "Let me do it." After waiting so long until now, the mystery is about to be revealed. Of course I want to handle it myself. I want to see the look on Victor's face with my own eyes. Honestly, I can hardly wait. The door opened, and Victor walked in with a smile. "Cecilia." His words trailed off as his gaze shifted from my face to my prominently rounded belly. Victor's expression went from confusion to shock before finally turning ashen. You're pregnant?" "Yes, 6 months along," I said softly, stroking my belly while relishing the change in Victor's expression. How is this possible? Weren't you infertile?" Victor said this with such lack of conviction that his voice dropped an octave. "Who said I was infertile?" "Victor, you didn't think our 6 childless years of marriage were my fault, did you?" I burst into laughter, a cathartic, unrestrained laugh. "Victor, the infertile one has always been you. You were born with dead sperm. You'll never father a child in this lifetime." As my words fell, Victor took several steps back. He was still holding the infant who hadn't yet reached a month old. "Impossible, this is my child. I'll raise him." "Huh." I laughed even louder. "So the fault is mine?" Victor, a child's father isn't necessarily the biological one just because he comes out of a certain woman's womb, but the mother is always real. Surely you can admit that? I looked at Victor's ashen face. In 6 years with me you couldn't have a child, yet after one quick affair with Nora she got pregnant? Don't you think that's strange? Who gave you the courage to think you could get a woman pregnant in one go? If you had that ability, would I have needed to take medication and undergo tests for 6 years? Victor took 2 more steps back, and I looked down at him with disdain. The last time your mother forced me to take folk remedies to prepare for pregnancy, I simply couldn't take it anymore. My test results all came back normal, so the problem must be with you. That's why I secretly sent your little tadpoles to the hospital for testing behind your back. The doctor told me that you were born with azoospermia and will never have a child of your own. He kindly suggested that if I really wanted a child, I could adopt one. Victor collapsed to the ground holding the child, unwilling to believe the result but forced to accept it. I kindly reminded him, go get a paternity test, it's the best solution. The paternity test results came quickly. Victor took the child to 3 different institutions, giving blood 3 times. By the time the blood was drawn, he already knew the outcome. After all, he had type A blood, Nora also had type A blood, yet the child he was holding had type B blood. 2 people with type A blood can never produce a type B blood child. Victor already knew that cruel truth. But he still refused to give up. What if there was an exception? He paid extra to have the doctor expedite the test. Then he waited with Anna for the paternity results. After more than 10 hours, the outcome was revealed. The child had no relation to Victor. 3 different institutions all gave the same result. Victor collapsed on the spot. Anna was so furious she started screaming curses. But there was no way to change this cruel outcome. Neither mother nor son believed that Victor could be infertile. So they went from place to place and finally had Victor tested at a hospital. The results were exactly as I had said. Anna went mad, roaring as she rushed to Selina's house to cause trouble. The once inseparable partners finally turned against each other. The 2 cursed each other with the vilest language, then came to blows. Anna and Selina showed no mercy, fighting from inside the house to the outside, then tumbling down the steps while grappling with each other. A loud thud. A crisp sound like splitting open a watermelon. Bright red blood gushed from Anna's head as she lay beside the steps. Her hands twitched weakly a few times before gradually going limp, then moving no more. The ambulance didn't arrive in time. Anna had already stopped breathing. Selina was taken away by the police. The police reviewed the surveillance footage and determined it was merely an accident. Selina hadn't committed intentional homicide. But Victor hired a lawyer, insisting on charging Selina with murder. Naturally, things didn't go as he had planned. With his identity revoked, Victor was just an ordinary man now. He tried to return to the company to reclaim his rightful shares. Only to find Alexander sitting in the CEO's seat, the position that should have been his. Only then did he realize that during the days he faked his death to accompany Nora through childbirth, his company had already changed hands. Had the child Nora given birth to been his own, Victor might have found some solace. At least his sacrifices would have yielded some return. Alas, after all this time and effort, he had lost his company, his mother, and now the child wasn't even his. Victor couldn't accept such an outcome, and what followed was inevitable. He took a knife and hit along the path that Nora, Selina, and Richard would inevitably pass. Thus occurred the triple homicide that shocked City A. Victor was arrested. The death penalty was certain. While awaiting execution, he had his lawyer request to see me. I went to the prison. Victor had aged considerably, his hair already turned white. Gone was the spirited demeanor he once had. Slowly picking up the phone, he choked out, "Cecilia, I'm sorry. Saying sorry now is far too late." Of course I wouldn't accept Victor's apology. I didn't come here today to give him peace of mind. I want him to suffer even in death. Victor, do you believe in karma? Since you're about to die, I'll tell you the truth. I come from the future. I know everything about you and Nora. In my past life, you two killed me, leaving not even a trace of my body. But in this life, I came for you both. And I'm very satisfied with how things have turned out for you." Without waiting to see Victor's reaction, I hung up the phone. As I turned to leave, I faintly heard a sound coming from behind me. I didn't look back, just gently placed my hand on my belly as I walked forward step by step, never turning back. Outside, the sunlight was perfect. The door of the familiar Maybach opened, and an extraordinarily handsome tall man with long legs came running toward me with a smile. I threw myself into his arms and wrapped mine around his waist. "Alexander, it's so wonderful to have you."